Hey guys, in today's discussion board post, I'm going to be talking about a very extraordinary woman in American history that had a tremendous impact on our nation, the founding of our nation, especially behind the scenes, and that is Abigail Adams. And before I get there, I want to give you just a brief bio on who she was. Of course, she was the wife of our second president and one of the major founding fathers of this country, John Adams. But Abigail was born into a prominent family in Massachusetts in November of 1744. Her father was a reverend, a congregational minister. So obviously coming from a family where they had a lot of access to knowledge and education. Unfortunately, like most women of the time, Abigail received no formal education, but that wasn't enough for her. This is kind of a testament to who she was. Abigail spent a lot of time in the family's library. They had a fairly extensive, large library, and according to the National Women's History Museum, she spent many hours in there mastering subjects and understanding material, and this is where she would gain fountains of knowledge that would surprise people in later years. She married John Adams in 1764, and it's kind of interesting. Robert Middlecoff, in his book *The Glorious Cause*, states that she brought a great deal of wit and warmth to the relationship that honestly John Adams was not known for. In the early years, he would gain later in his life, but that's also kind of a testament to who she was as well. Some other very important aspects of who Abigail Adams, is she was a major advocate for women's rights. Now, a lot of historians like to jump and depict her as this major feminist, and that might not be entirely true. She did work with Judith Murray in her efforts to expand women's education. That was probably one of the biggest, foundations for her, and something that she pushed for was women's education, but also that women would have a voice in this country, especially as the revolution and the founding years started to come about. She was hoping that women's voices would be heard in this new nation. But the big thing, whenever you're talking about Abigail and John Adams, what always comes up, but it's incredibly important, is their correspondence, is their writing to each other. Over the years, John and Abigail Williams wrote hundreds of correspondence and letters to each other. And according to G.J. Barker Benfield, most of these letters were over, personal items, feelings. David McCullough said that a lot of times John would actually seek advice from his wife, Abigail, whether it's on personal matters or political matters. So here you have, in the Revolutionary years, one of our founding fathers seeking political advice from his wife. That was not common. But that's just a testament to who she was as a woman. She had a great deal of knowledge and a wealth of knowledge, I guess you could say, to offer. And she didn't hesitate to correct John, to steer him in directions if she felt, or really just to give her opinion. And Abigail would write to other leaders as well. She wouldn't hesitate, actually. She corresponded quite often especially when he became president, men like Thomas Jefferson, and that's actually after he defeated her husband in a close election. But she would write to him voicing her opinions and not necessarily trying to steer the country in one way or the other, but to make sure that her voice was heard and to make sure that our government was trying to seek to hear the voice of women, because at the time, frankly, they did not. She would also write to other men like James Madison, another president in our history. So Abigail Adams was an extremely unique woman in American history. She had a lot to offer, not just between the relationship between her husband John and her, but she, in those early years of the founding of our country, really helped steer our nation by voicing her opinions to John, helping him focus his opinions and his thoughts. So you could say that many decisions maybe that John made were not just supported by his wife, but maybe recommended by his wife. And she was a very powerful woman. She was courageous in that regard. Another example of this is John Adams, because of his work, because of he did travel early in their marriage as his being a lawyer. But out of any of the founding fathers, John spent a great deal of time away from the United States, over in Europe, advocating for assistance in the war. And Abigail was left to not only raise the children, but to run the farm, to run the household. So she was a very strong woman, and she's really a testament to what a lot of women of that period had to deal with. And she's just unique in a sense of she brought not just that strength, but a political voice as well, and a major heart for this country. Thank you.